that sounds good. So, and YouTube's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. So let me introduce you. Okay, so welcome everyone to the April 2021 edition of the Kentucky section of AIPG's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series. Today's talk will be titled The KGS StoryMap Experience and an Overview of Building ArcGIS StoryMaps by Doug Curl at the Kentucky Geological Survey. He is the head of the Geoscience Information section and earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Geology from Guilford College and a Master of Science degree in Geology from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. His interests include communicating geology through WebGIS applications, GIS analysis, geologic mapping, and structural geology. Please give him a welcoming hand.
Can I just interject a quick little history of his experiences at KGS?
Go ahead.
All right, well, what I was going to say was, you know, Doug started at the Kentucky Geological Survey in the digital mapping program in 1998. He was digitizing geologic maps. What he saw through the availability of digital programs that he could make available KGS data content online. As technology advanced, Doug kept upgrading the availability of KGS data and making it more robust. Today, the KGS website incorporates a geo-reference geologic map with availability of KGS and other agencies' digital databases, all brought onto his geologic map. And this is for anyone seeking information on LiDAR, aerial photography, oil and gas, water, geologic rock type, and much, much more of their specific area of interest. Doug came across an interesting web-based program. So today, he will introduce you to the world of StoryMaps. And StoryMaps lets you create inspiring stories by combining text, interactive maps, and other multimedia content. StoryMaps lets you publish and share with your organization or anyone or everyone around the world. So take it away, Doug.
All right. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, everybody. So yeah, I've been sharing geologic data, KGS data mostly, for quite a while. And the exciting thing about StoryMaps is you know, they make it a lot easier to do these things and to tell a story and that sort of thing. But I think it can be a little daunting diving in. And so hopefully I'll unveil a little bit of that today. And hopefully you'll be inspired to do your own story maps. And I'll even show you how to use KGS data if you want, and that sort of thing. So I'll start with, I have a brief PowerPoint that I'll refer to, but I'll just share that first just to get things going. So I can share my screen. Let's see how this goes. And we're here. Can you see that? That's the slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I was kind of tasked with, you know, the talking about story maps and kind of the KGS experience, and then how to get started doing them. And I noticed that this was part of a diversity, equity, and inclusion series, and I really think story maps fit well within that this theme, because story maps can be a wonderful way to make our data, our information, very accessible to a wide variety of people, maybe people who can't, you know, I think, you know, in the geology world, people maybe can't get to geologic sites, we can develop story maps that make them accessible in a way, and then also, I think the tools to make them are also so now they're getting much easier to use, that a lot of different people with different abilities and technical expertise can make story maps without doing any coding or anything like that, which is my world. I mean, I started out coding and stuff like that, and I still do that, but it's really nice to have these builders that particularly Esri has created to help build story maps. And then we have a story map about a very special place in Kentucky, Camp Nelson, and I'll talk more about that. And I think that this story map that we developed for KGS in the past year really fits within this this theme as well. So because it's got a lot of history, really interesting history, and then of course geologic component. So just to sort of demystify the term of story maps, because people go back and forth, you know, what's a story map? Or what are you talking about? And if you go and Google it, you pretty much get the Esri world. And then if you start going, diving more into Google about story maps, you get weird things and other disciplines that I wasn't even familiar with you know, obviously storyboard building, but just different disciplines. But the term story map in this sense is really an Esri constructed term that they developed, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago. And they've developed tools to make these story maps. And I think their motivation was to get people to use their newer online world back then. They really dove into developing online tools. And then, you know, it was really hard for people to develop maps that made sense to a wide audience. And so they developed this format called story maps. And I think it's fantastic. It's really caught on. The tools were pretty, in my opinion, a little difficult to use early on, but now they've gotten so much easier, and you can make a story map pretty quickly, and I'll do that actually today. So, but essentially a story map, just to, you know, define it, I guess my definition is it's a website focused on a specific topic or a story that has some geographic component. And you know, you think about most things, you could probably relate to a map of some sort. You can put a pin on a map and talk about something, you know, unless it's something really theoretical, I guess, or whatever. But so you can kind of make a story map out of pretty much anything. And geology, of course, we're pretty much always thinking about some place. So either you have a map that supports your story, or a story that is supported by a map or explained by a map. I didn't really put that sentence in there correctly, I don't think. And then just to, you know, talk about the term itself, story map put together is the Esri sort of name, story map. So I always say Esri story map put together, or you can separate the word story and map if you're just writing it out. So that you see it, I don't know, I squish the terms together sometimes I put a space in it. But that's really, I think, the proper usage. And Richard, Meg probably tells exactly what we need to say for that, but I think that's right. At KGS, we've actually created a, we don't want to use the Esri, you know, story map kind of term. And so we created a series of publications called Interactive Tour. And so if you search for stuff in our publications, you could probably find it through using the term story map, but we've actually developed a series called Interactive Tour just to avoid using that term. Okay, sorry. That was, just wanted to, you get the question a lot about, you know, what is a story map and which is the right way to call it, that sort of thing. So let's see, move map. So kind of what I'll do is the first part of my talk, I want to talk a little bit about the KGS StoryMaps in particular, one that we did this past year on Camp Nelson, but just kind of give you the landscape of what we've done at KGS regarding story maps. And then I'll dive into how to make a story map using a free Esri account. So you can actually get a free Esri account and create story maps with the caveat that you can't use them for commercial use, selling things or whatever. But I think, most people, probably are interested in just telling a story for whatever sake. And, at KGS, we're obviously making not-for-profit story maps. So I'll go over kind of what we've done at KGS and then dive into how to do it. So I think what I'll do is stop my share and then share again real quick. So we'll share my web browser. So here we are. This is so I'm going to again go over just kind of the landscape of what we have at KGS for story maps. And you can get to our story maps through, this is the front page of our website, obviously. Got a lot of stuff on here, but under online maps, we have a link to our geologic story maps. And so if you open that, you get a page that looks like this. And we've embedded a map in here that, if a story map that we've created has a location, a specific location it's talking about, then we put a pin on a map, and so you can get it that way. And so this is the Camp Nelson one that I'll talk about more in a minute. But we've been doing this for several years, and our first story map was I think one of the first ones we did was one on Cove Spring Park in Frankfort, Kentucky. And this used the kind of older version of making a story map builder, if you will, that Esri has. But it's a tour of Cove Spring Park. I won't open it just to reduce bandwidth, but basically it walks you through the park and different sites on it. It worked really well. Richard worked on this. And we even got Cove Spring to create little placards for the numbers. So we can never change the numbers of the numbers in the story map, because we there's physical numbers that refer to the story map, and then in their kiosk is the link to it. And I think they even printed out, you can actually print these, and so they printed out some versions of it, I think in a kind of pamphlet format or something. So the really successful story map, again, built on this idea of a tour. And that's kind of where we thought we would go, was, just make a bunch of tours of different sites. And we've kind of done that with different things, but, it turns out you can make story maps pretty much out of, anything that, it preferably has a map involved, but actually we created, this past year, we created our annual report in story map format, and we have embedded maps in there, but it really just is a really nice format for showing our annual report. I'll show that here. So that's what this looks like. A big picture on the front, and then a message from Bill at the beginning, and then kind of goes through, and you can embed all sorts of content in here, and it's been really well received. And of course, you can embed maps and that sort of thing. So I won't go too much into detail on that, but you can check that out. So yeah, it turns out you can do many different types of story maps, but we did focus really on for several of these kind of tours. And one really nice one that Steve Martin and Emily Morris worked on was a geologic tour of Boone County in Northern Kentucky. And did not open that one, did I? Oh, I did. So this is Boone County and Boone County Public Parks. Steve Martin had done a lot of mapping up there with others in the mapping section. And he decided to do the story map that focuses on different parks, both Big Bone Lick, but also some public parks in Boone County. And I won't go through all of this, but it gives some nice background info and then really gets into the geology. Superficial geology is kind of what he's focused on. So the glacial influence in that area. And then at the bottom is actually a tour of different sites. So the first one is Big Bone Lick, and he actually has embedded the geologic map, and you can jump around and that sort of thing. So really nice map, story map, really great use of this. And you can see we have this series called Interactive Tours, and this is interactive tour number 4, series 13. So we officially named these our KGS Interactive Tours, but it's a story map. And so finally, so this year, we have some others. We have one on our meteorite collection, and another tour that Steve did in Parklands. And then this is one on natural arches that actually wasn't built with the story map builder. We'll probably redo this for natural arches, be a little bit nicer in that story map format, but it still fulfills, I think, the spirit of story maps is telling a story, if you will, or about kind of a specific topic, and arches have these locations and would work really nicely in the Esri story map format. So we'll probably switch that over. And then this is about a specific research project with the BRIA Consortium. So, but this past year, Drew Andrews and I worked on a story map for Camp Nelson National Monument, which was recently designated a national monument. It's been it was a Jessamine County park for quite a while. Oh yeah, I'll go back to the questions. Michael Conway asked if I had a favorite template, and I think now my favorite template is the story builder, which I'll show. But there are a bunch of different templates for just depending on the type of story you want to build. And we've been using this story builder, which I'll show. I think it's just a nice integration of all their ways you can build a story map. So, I'll show that. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I can answer them as I get to them. So back to Camp Nelson. So Camp Nelson was recently designated a national monument. Drew Andrews has he's had a high interest in Camp Nelson for a really long time. He was involved with Civil War reenactments and is friends with the staff at Camp Nelson. And Camp Nelson also has this really interesting geologic and geographic component to its location. And so we decided to get together and do a story map about Camp Nelson. I think it turned out really nicely. And so you see it's our interactive tour number 5. And so just to kind of go through this, administered by the Park Service, which is a really great designation for this location. So what the concept is we give an introduction about it, and then a bit of history, and then geologic information about Camp Nelson and why it's there. And then we dive into a tour at the end. But just to kind of go over the story map a little bit in detail, this is general location of Camp Nelson, about the location of the post, had formidable defenses. So a very brief, kind of overview. And then the kind of the situation there is it's surrounded basically by the Kentucky River Palisades. So kind of just give an overview of that kind of location information. You can interact with these maps. We put the sinkholes on here. This all becomes really important part of this, but just kind of an overview. And so just back up on the history, eventually grew to include workshops as this Army outpost, a bakery, a hospital, convalescent. It was kind of a million different things. And then it became an important training center for new recruits to the Union Army. And in particular, were African Americans that were escaping slavery, traveled traveled, north into Kentucky, and then this was basically a refuge for African Americans escaping from slavery, and then it became a training post for the U.S. colored troops at Camp Nelson, and then also housed their families as a refugee camp. So it became incredibly important in the Union cause and protecting people as they escaped from slavery. So so we kind of go into the history of this, and then this is kind of the introduction. Okay, what is Camp Nelson? Why is there a cemetery there? There's separate from the national monument is the National Cemetery. So so then we get more into the history and geology of this, and this is where we really have added some neat interactive content. Really diving into the geographic setting. There was another camp south of here that was not ideal location. It was just indefensible, and for some reason the sorry. Okay, here we go. Here we are. So sometimes I've had this thing open up all day, so I think that's probably what it was. But so Camp Dick Robinson was south of where Camp Nelson was established. Very bad location, very flat, pretty indefensible. And so they quickly they moved north and found this location protected by the Palisades north of where Camp Dick Robinson was. And we had this scanned georeference map, historic map of Camp Nelson that you can zoom in on. I'll get to that. So kind of turn the view a little bit, and you can kind of explore around this map. And it is a little, it's hard to read. It is a scanned map, but if you zoom in, you can kind of make out the features and that sort of thing, and really play around with the 3D aspect of this. But you can see how it's, using the statewide LiDAR, you can really see how it's surrounded by this incised, this creek, I believe this is Hickman Creek, and then obviously the Kentucky River Palisades. And so Drew also had digitized building footprints, and we're able to use some Esri magic and extrude the footprints to kind of just show really where these fortifications, that's a fortification, actually that red line, and then the buildings are buildings, and we kind of estimated the height of them. So it's not, it's not a digital twin, if you will, or whatever, but it is a nice visualization of what what the buildings might have looked like. And then I can get this thing to act right. There's kind of the defining feature here, besides the Palisades, are the sinkholes. So these are blue sinkholes from our data, from KGS data, and you can see they situated these buildings within sinkholes for further protection. So you really couldn't see, you could probably barely see the top of the buildings from afar. So really sinkholes plus the Palisades. This place was, in Civil War times, pretty protected. And so, it was a great training camp, and then, but also a refugee camp as well. And this just gives you, you can put pictures in these, and you get really nice, photo of the Palisades, just kind of showing, how incised they are and what you're dealing with if you're trying to, attack this in Civil War times. And then just a little history about a bridge called the Hickman Bridge at the south end. And it's a covered bridge. And then we go into a little bit more of the geology, about karst geology, and you can link off to information. That's kind of nice about story maps. If you need to define things, obviously you can define it with the language in the map, but you could also link off to other information. So this links off to our website, about karst, if you want to learn more about karst. And then we get into we have a walking tour of Camp Nelson, so you can actually take this. And I should say the nice thing about using these builders is that they format for the phone. So if you're in an area with cell coverage, you can use these. Unfortunately, right now, there's not really a great offline option for StoryMaps. That's something that I ask every chance I get, you know, when are you going to be able to put this into an app? And they say, well, we're working on it. But in their defense, it would be very difficult to bring in all of this content offline into an app. But I feel like it could be done. I mean, there are ways to write apps, you know, be very customized for that one story map and that sort of thing. But to have an out-of-the-box solution would be really nice. So, you know, at the very least, you can explore these on your desktop. I think Ed asked about bandwidth. I don't really know what minimum bandwidth. I would say dial-up would be too slow. Hopefully, most people. Well, I know there's issues with bandwidth in Kentucky, particularly in rural areas, but you know, dial-up's going to be slow with something like this, especially with the interactive content and trying to flow those maps across the internet and display them on your browser. So, you know, at the very least, a low-speed, high-speed internet connection, I guess. Probably, I haven't really tested. I can't really speak to it too much, but I brought it up on my phone and it works even this one works really well with all this interactive content, works well on my phone. So I will say that. Yeah, let me, so I'll just kind of go through this really quick. Just some of the features about this is it's pretty easy to build these, you know, these sites. And I'm going to go through building this, not this one, but a fake one, but not fake. But yeah, you can put in different photos and then walk through and that sort of thing. So that's the tour part, and I just implore you to check it out. And then we have a little bit about the cemetery. I think it's a very prominent feature there, and it's very important. So it's have that at the end, and then credits. So so I think I'll a couple more questions about building them, and I think I'll hopefully answer those in my next section here when I kind of dive into building them. As far as feedback from educators and others, we've gotten some, we get general excitement about using the story maps, but I think we need to do more to get them out to the public. You know, we advertise them on our website, and we occasionally have a social media post about them. And you know, really the feedback we get is, yay, that was really neat. Now this one for Camp Nelson, we've gotten a bit more feedback. We've gotten a lot of excitement from the people that Drew knows at Camp Nelson about using it. And so I'm hoping that they advertise it through the park. And then I think Drew has heard from other historians and people who want to use this. So that's kind of the feedback, but it's just general excitement. It's not, I haven't heard of anybody really using these totally in-depth for, you know, an education event or that sort of thing. I wish they would. I hope they do. Maybe they do. I hope they would tell us about it. Let me stop my share. So that's the kind of landscape of KGS StoryMaps. And so my next part, I'm going to a little PowerPoint just to give a little background on what you need to do your own story map. But you can build these pretty quickly, and you'll see this here in a minute when I do the story builder. You know, what I'm hoping to build one is, you know, in the next 15 minutes. So so let me share my screen. So any questions before I do that about the KGS story maps? Or all right, so back to PowerPoint. Yay, everybody loves PowerPoint. But just to, again, demystify a little bit of what you need to get started. You do need an ArcGIS for building Esri story maps, which is by far, in my opinion, the easiest way to build them. You could, if you're really good at web development and that sort of thing, you could build them on your own. But in this context, using the Esri ArcGIS Online account is what you need. But the good news is you can get a free account through ArcGIS Online. It's called a public account. It's available to anybody. Again, you have to use this for non-commercial use, so you can't use it to promote your business or that sort of thing. But if you just want to use it to build, an educational story map with open data and that sort of thing, then that's what you want to do is at least get a public account. Now I will say, while you can use the story map builder and a lot of functionality is available, there is some limits to functionality, but it's not, I don't think it's, I think they've done a pretty good job of balancing, what they offer for the public account versus the paid account. And I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with the public account except what I've prepared for this. And just practicing, I was kind of impressed by what you can do with the public account, so that's good. Now, paid account, if you're with an organization that has an Esri license, like an enterprise license like UK does or Kentucky State Employees, you might be able to use your organizational accounts. We have one for KGS specifically. And so, with that, you can pretty much do anything you want with building story maps. Obviously, again, you want to do that within the framework of your license and non-commercial use, probably if you're with, well, yes, with UK or KGS, Kentucky State Employee. I don't know what their parameters are. So you have to pay attention to what your license allows you to do. But if you're with a business, you can get business accounts. I was looking and it seems like it's about $600 a year. So that seems pretty reasonable to me if you're a business and you want an ArcGIS Online account for your business use and that sort of thing. So you need an ArcGIS Online account. So we're going to start with that. And I'm going to use the public account for showing this. So my slide will advance. So getting started with building your own, obviously you need an idea. That would be, you don't just, obviously you need an idea. And I really encourage staying focused. So, a specific area, a specific topic, that sort of thing. I think it's easy to get sort of carried away and think, oh, I'm doing one about, this personal experience, doing one about Camp Nelson. Oh, why don't we make it about the whole Palisades and then talk about every single area in the Palisades? And, you don't need to do that in one story map. You can divide it up into different ones and then have kind of a front end site to get those across. So, just, stay focused, and you can build more than one. So you don't need to do the whole kitchen sink in one fell swoop. Obviously, I feel the need to say this, but you want to plan this out first. And really, this is your time-consuming part, right? It's the storyboarding, it's the figuring out the sequence, it's the flow of it. Paper post-it notes obviously work, but I found actually putting them together in PowerPoint is a nice way to do it because you can edit PowerPoint and send it around for edits pretty easily. Obviously Word or whatever. And then Esri has this new story builder, which I'll show. And that works pretty well for starting to put things together because you can move stuff around pretty easily. But I really recommend getting your text done, probably in Word or something that you can pass around and edit and get feedback on, rather than using the story map itself, because you're gonna have trouble getting edits on if you just start using the story map builder and start writing text. Not probably ideal. So like anything, planning is important. And then obviously, you collect your photos, get an idea of map data that you want to want to show, you know, that's, there are embedded ways of building the map, and I'll show that. And then write text, you know, keep it active and interesting, and avoid jargon if you can. And like I said, you can link to concepts if you don't want to get bogged down in explaining jargon, but I would just recommend, you know, keeping it. You're probably going to have a wider audience with the story map than maybe you do some other things. So that's just my advice. And then using language helpers like Word for writing aid, which give you feedback on, you know, your grade level and tense and everything, works really well. So that's just my little advice. So I will go into the story map builder, and I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it this way. So sorry if you're getting dizzy going back and forth. Let's see. So that's what I want to share. Okay, so we've talked about the our story maps. So what I'm going to do is build a little story map just so you can get a feel for how this works and kind of how easy it is. And what I really encourage you to do is just dive in and do this. Get an account and have an idea and just play with it, because you can always delete it. You don't have to share it. You don't have to publish it. And actually, I'll show you. It doesn't publish until you publish it. So it's you know, don't be scared about, you know, diving in. So you sign in. Again, this is my free account, and just going to StoryMaps ArcGIS.com. You know, it's got a nice little layout here, and you can start a story. There's different ways you can do this. And start from scratch, which is what I'll do. But it also has some quick start ways. But all of these are actually embedded in the whatever you start. So there is another way of starting story maps, which I'll show, where you can, this is the new, if you're familiar with Esri story maps, this is the new builder called the story builder. There's a bunch of other older templates that they have that you can use, and those are really nice and people still use them, but they're very specific to like if you want to do a tour or a cascade. And really this one gets you all of those kind of together, and it's, I think, just a very nice format, because it gives you layout that you see first. You know, you get this nice title and everything, and then you can dive into the interactive content. So that's what I'm going to use here. But so I'll start a story, and it launches this builder, and you can immediately start typing things, and so that's great. So you can title this, and what I'm going to do is, it's a little story map made up. We went on a canoe trip last summer to actually the Kentucky River, not far from Camp Nelson at Fort Boonesboro. So this is going to be a Fort Boonesboro canoe tour story map. Story map. I'm just making things up. Story map of a nice trip. Okay, so you can change, you know, you can change the authors and whether it's a draft and that sort of thing. And then you can add a cover image. And so you can't see this, but I've got this folder of photos that I've, you know, kind of compiled for this. And so that's kind of the background work. And my cover photo is this, and I really just drag and drop in here. I can browse for it. And then I add it. So this becomes my cover photo. And then, you know, you can really play around with the design. You know, maybe you want it side by side. You know, that's kind of nice. I mean, there's kayaks and everything. Or you just want, this is what we did for Camp Nelson, you know, a big splash. You know, and I kind of like this because it's, you know, it's like, wow, that's, you know, that's neat. I want to see more. And then you can just start telling your story. And you have a lot of options here, but you know, you probably want to start with some introductory text, maybe. You could also put a map. I'll just say, sorry, type, this is a tour of the Fort Boonesboro. I'm not going to type a ton of text in this, but by canoe, and then I want to add, just a location map. And so what I did there was, I'll just X out of that. This little X gives you a lot of different options for things to embed. So you can immediately start embedding, a map tour, a swipe feature between photos, a video. There are some things you can't because this is a free account. Image gallery, audio, and for some reason, it doesn't allow you to embed those. And it's probably a bandwidth thing. You're using a free account, they probably don't want you to use too much bandwidth by embedding a bunch of audio and video and stuff. Or actually, you can embed video. So kudos to them. So I'm going to put a location map. And I've got some pre-made maps, but I just want a location map of this area. So Fort Boonesboro, Kentucky, and that's my location. I kind of want it zoomed in. I don't like that background, so I'm going to use, I don't know, I'll use a bunch of different ones. These are all Esri ones. I'll show you how to build your own. Sorry, carried away here. So I'm going to use an imagery. Actually, I'll use topographic because you can actually see the park on here. So done that, done, add to the map. So here I've got, the location, and I can describe this a little bit more. I think I forgot to put the add to the map, but you can edit this, go right back out to the editor. I can draw features on here. I can draw a box. I can put a marker. So I'll put a marker, and then I can add an image. So that's where we start, is the boat ramp. Say it's more or less right there. And so I've already, gotten going, and I can add a caption. This is the location map. And then I might want to just add some kind of, I might want to add a separator. And then I might want to just add another pretty image of, say, canoeing, just to keep you interested. So a nice canoeing picture. And the thing about the photos, that's kind of, you can add captions, excuse me, but you can also add alternative text. And I really recommend this for, for accessibility. This is a photo of the canoe, the Kentucky River. This is for people with screen readers, also helps with search engines, as it says, but it is a good idea to do this. You can also put credits in somewhere. So obviously you want to credit photography, especially if it's not yours, and don't use anything that's not yours without permission. And then, just to belabor this, but I can add any more text and that sort of thing. But right now, what I want to do is, and this is probably the dumbest, trickiest part of using this story map builder, is how to get the headers at the top. So there is a spot up here for headers, and you actually have to turn it on, I think. Sorry, just give me 2 seconds. In the story settings, it's not there. Oh, yeah, it's design, sorry. For one thing, there's different themes you can choose. You can change the type. There's not a lot of options in the the free one. With subscription accounts, you can go crazy with the different themes, but you know, these do cover kind of a nice basis. But there's something called navigation. Navigation's awesome because it gives you a header below here that jumps you to different sections. And probably the number one hang up that people have, and I have to figure this out every time, but now I'm presenting this, and so I'll remember forever. So you can add headings, and you would think you would just type in here and add a heading. No. Down here, if I want to add a heading, so this is where I want to add a heading. I actually have to pick the thing heading, and so I'm going to call this background. And you can see it types that up above, and then I can go on and this is the history of this area. So so that's how you get headings up here. It's not intuitive. It's hard to find this. So just remember, you have to use this text and heading that's if you're going to use this thing, that's probably where you're going to get hung up, is how to put the headers up there. But so I'll put another one. Now I'll put the tour. So now I'm going to embed the tour part of this, and this is pretty cool. So I can start from scratch. I can upload photos. So if I have a bunch of photos that are geolocated, I can do that. And actually, I do have photos that are geolocated, but I'm going to start from scratch. And I'm going to use the guided one. The Explorer, the difference is the guided one is like the Camp Nelson one, where it has different points and you kind of go along and it's got a picture for each point. The Explorer will have a bunch of photos on the left and you can go wherever you want. The guided is more, you know, this is a tour, a canoe tour that, you know, you would start point A, go to point, you know, whatever, and then come back to point A. So you want a guided tour. The Explorer wouldn't work well because, you know, you don't want to jump around. You can't just go over here in the Kentucky River, you have to canoe there. So, sorry, that's a long. So I'm going to do map focused. You can do media focused. Map focused probably works better for this because you want to know where those locations are. But you can kind of change all that stuff around. And again, you can really play around with it. So I'm going to add in another image. So my first image I have here on the, you can't see them, but the first one is of a fault. It's actually the Boonesboro Fault System. This photo is geotagged because I took it with my iPhone. And so this is the fault. So that's neat. But this map is, you know, it's human geography. It doesn't really tell me there's a fault here or anything. And so what I want to do is configure this map to have a geologic map. And so I can browse more maps. And I've made one already, but what I want to show you is in ArcGIS Online, if you had signed in into ArcGIS Online, so this is using my same account, but this is the ArcGIS Online part of it, not the StoryMaps part. But in my content, I've created, you know, this is my story map that I'm working on. And this is a web map that I created called Kentucky Geologic Map. I know I'm kind of probably running out of time, so I don't want to belabor this, but basically I can create a map using information from the Geologic Map Service. So I can jump to the Geologic Map Service. This is our map service, by the way, that has a bunch of our layers in it. And what we've done is provide the layer information for these, for the layers that are displayed here. And so I'm going to use faults. This is the layer information for this. I know it's probably, hopefully not too whirlwind, but the point is that I can add this layer to a map and use it in this, use it on this story map. So here I've got faults. I'm going to save this. Kentucky faults, and then they make you add tags. So I'll just add one tag. So I've saved this map. This is a map that comes from us, from KGS, and it's got these fault, the fault traces on here. And now I can have to do it again. Some more maps. And so here's my Kentucky faults. So now I'm using this Kentucky faults, and I want to custom the zoom because I want to zoom in, right on to that first point. And I think that's good. So if I zoom in, now you can see where that photo is located. It's, I'm pretty sure I took a picture of the fault, which is here, and I could annotate that photo or whatever. So then you just start adding, more locations to this. So, the next one is, I looked at the Camp Nelson. Sorry, I have to add an image. I looked at the Camp Nelson geologic unit here. So, and then I can, again, edit this map. I don't know why the zoom function, oh, there we are, okay. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to zoom in on where I was. So I could add the geologic map in here using the same way I added the faults. I won't do that, but you just start adding these photos, and it's geolocated these because I took them with my iPhone, but if you didn't, I'll add one more, and I'll just show you how to move this around. You can actually just click on the map and then add that as your location. So there's my third, and it's up Howard's Creek. So we had actually canoed from the boat ramp through the fault, looked at the Camp Nelson, went up into Lower Howard's Creek, had lunch. Great spot for lunch. So, yay. And then, I can add many more points, but, say that's not exactly where that my iPhone didn't do a great job of locating that. I can replace the image. I can't remember how to do this. Oh yeah, edit location. So, I'm not super happy with where it put that. So I can edit this location. I can't remember. Sorry, dogs having FOMO with other dogs outside. So, on and on it goes, and you can, build your map tour. You can build in other sections, kind of ad nauseum. You don't want to overwhelm the user with, a million different things and stuff. But sidecar is another thing where you would have a photo and then a description of that photo behind it, or a map. But I think that tour one is, this is probably, when people think about story maps, I think a lot of people think about these tours, and it's very easy to build these, especially with this builder. So my final part of it, if I'm happy with this, it saves these things automatically, but I can publish it. I can make it private, or I can publish it with, with the world. I don't want to do that right now because it's still a draft, but you can do that. And when you do that, I'll just show you what happens. So it checks the story for issues. And then if you have any data in there that you haven't shared, it kind of warns you about it and then asks you if you want to share those items. So I don't want to do that. I want to kind of finish. So what I just really highly recommend just diving in and starting to build your own story maps. The worst thing that can happen is you have to delete it and start over. But if you've collected your photos into, say, a folder and you've got your text written, it should go pretty smoothly. So as long as you can tell a story. So that is what I had. So any questions or hopefully it wasn't too much of a whirlwind. I think people could just ask, you know, we don't have that many people on here.
Doug, this is really exciting, I think. It's, even though it was hurried, it's pretty clear that it's not difficult to make a story map, it looks like. I know Richard has talked to me about doing something, and I was really hemming and hawing because I didn't know what exactly was involved. So this kind of makes me feel like maybe that's doable, and whether or not we do that, we'll see. But
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, the technical part of it is now not very difficult. It's adding things and figuring out all the little tips and tricks, about things like headers and stuff. But it's really the time-consuming part is obviously collecting the data or the photos, and then writing the text. And you probably don't want to write too much text because people don't come to StoryMap, I don't think, to read too much. I think they want to see interactive content. They want to see photos and shorter probably explanations of those. But yeah, that's the time-consuming part. And everybody's written reports and that sort of thing before, so it's just a different way of doing that. But the technical part, that's where that's what I was excited to present, because they've just made these tools a lot easier. I mean, there are other builders you can use, and it gets a little bit more complicated, but I would start out with this. And so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for coming. I don't know how you wrap these up, but.
Oh, I have a question.
Oh, sure.
If you were to teach this within a typical semester-long course, what level of background knowledge would a student need to have to be able to navigate this? I guess part of that will depend on how much time and patience the instructor would have to guide them through that. But is this something that would only work with more upper class, third, fourth year students at a typical 4-year institution, or could this work with students at as young as like a high school level?
Oh, I think high school level could do this. I think so the technical part again is very easy. It's probably no harder than building a Facebook page, to be honest, or if not easier. As far as that goes, I think the part where it gets tricky is the content and making sure that they're using appropriate photos that aren't copyright and that they have permission for, and then obviously writing text that makes sense. But it just depends on what. Obviously, you can do them on any topic. If you're talking about geology, I would say to make something that would make sense to people. I mean, gosh, I think about my freshman geology courses, and I could see where we could have had a class project doing a story map to do a report or something. So, and you don't have to share these with the world. So if you had a class and you were doing story maps, what you could do is have an account for the students, and then put them in a group, and they just share within that group. And that's not shared to the world, and you keep those reports within that organization. That's probably how I would do it. And then if some float up that are really good, then publish those to the public. But I think kids today, they're not going to have a problem navigating the technical part of this. It's going to be compiling that information into something that makes sense. But hopefully they have to write reports and things like that. So this isn't that much different, and you can be a little bit more creative. In fact, if you know Corey Black Eagle, but they had me go to one of their classes and evaluate story maps that he had the classes do, and they were really good. They were tours of I think they had to. It was a geography type class, so they had to do a report on a different country or something, and they all made story maps. And I think this was a first or second year class, and they did it fine. And that was using the older story. This would have probably even been better, but.
Great, thank you.
I think Esri is. I think even they're getting, even middle school, elementary to use these things. So, but I'd be interested to see what they came up with.
I think this is going to be very promising for as we think about the geoscience education moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, again, accessibility to these sites, that may be really hard for people to get to for various reasons. And this can, you get these beautiful layouts and pictures, and it's a fun format to go through, and it's not so if you don't make it dry, I think you could really do something compelling.
I wonder too if it's something that could be taken to middle school, maybe high school or elementary school level, to give them a taste of something that maybe their class doesn't have the means to get there, but we could start showing them some of these things. A Camp Nelson or maybe the Boone County geology might be too rigorous for them, depending on the level, but that's where we could make simplified or lower level presentations.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, we're at KGS, we're geoscience researchers, so I think we have to balance showing our research and that sort of thing. So that's where Boone County might get a little bit more complicated because it is about superficial geologic mapping, but there's got to be a way to make this to make it more accessible, I think, to a less technical audience. And you have to think about your your audience, obviously, when you're doing these. I mean, who are you going to quote unquote market these to, I guess. But I'm of the belief, I think we've got a lot of really compelling sites in Kentucky. I think the Camp Nelson one has a little bit simpler geology, and it's probably, we should be getting that one out to more groups. It's not very technical, which is great. I'm excited about the arches one because I think everybody loves arches, and we don't have to get too technical about the art. We can get into the measurements of them and that sort of thing. But I think mostly people just want to see pretty photos of arches and where they are and go with that. So that's not, you do a little bit of geology there. It's more of a interesting geomorphic feature, but I've thought one just on the overall geologic history of Kentucky would be pretty easy to do. Kind of peeling back the layers and taking somebody through that story. So that's that's not just a specific area; it's all of Kentucky, but it would work well within this format, and that could be a really nice teaching tool, I think, if we did it appropriately.
I think if we go back to Cove Spring Park in Frankfurt, that is a easily accessible area that is not on the highway. It's got parking, and the Kentucky Recreation and Parks, they, like you said, they took an interest in it and they started making placards so people could interact when they get to a certain point. What are they looking at? What is the formation? What do they see within that formation? And that's where things were explained with arrows and everything. And so, we got the bentonite layers in there. We got the faulting and the fracturing, and we got the the top of the Tyrone and the Curdsville coming in on top of each other and showing the difference in the energy, where the limestone is the mud and then the Curdsville is all that fossil hash. And like you said, the hardest part was to try to strip away your geologic naming of it. So, you know, we couldn't go in there and say this, so we had to try to break it down to the lowest common denominator that someone would understand. And in the future, I mean, you can ask Brandon, high school kids were even coming in there, parking, and then taking that tour all the way back to the spring. So it was a very good story map that will bring people into that area, get them off the road, but yet give them a nice, easy walk and bring them up to places and then say, hey, look, this is what a fracture looks like, and this is what it is. You know, this is a fault. This is what your volcanic ash layers look like. So,
Yeah, that park has a lot of interesting geologic and cultural features, and people love going there. I think it's you guys did it. I know that one took a while. I think just getting the language right and that sort of thing, but that's a good one that, you know, I would hope more. I think classes could use that one. Maybe I don't know about middle school, but maybe.
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if Frankfurt schools already take kids there. When I worked for the state, we used to go out there sometimes, coworkers, and look at the wildflowers, look at the different things there. I've looked at the tour. It's great. I think it's very helpful. And the other thing I wanted to add is that there is a 5th grade teacher, Doug knows him, and we were able to give away a few free, some free access to GIS to teachers or to people. Right. And I don't know if he's going to do anything with StoryMaps, but it might be worth reaching out. And he might also be able to get other schools interested or other teachers. So. Yeah,
I haven't, I kind of follow him. His name, he was Kentucky Teacher of the Year a couple of years ago, Donnie. Sorry, I can't remember his last name, but
I just remember Donnie too.
He teaches in Lexington. He's great. He also is, I think he's a National Geographic Fellow or something. I'd like to reach out to him. He's been very Google Earth oriented, so to build, you know, his interactive content. And I imagine he's just busy, and I don't know if he's done much with the Esri stuff, but I should follow up with him and see.
Something that also strikes me is how it's important to get the word out, and for all us who have seen this, to get the word out on what you've already prepared. So for instance, I'm a member of a Facebook group called Kentucky Nature, I think it is, and maybe some of you are as well. And there have been a lot of photographs posted recently of Cove Springs Park. Well, you know, my goodness, it'd be easy to respond to those folks and just say, hey, if you want to see something cool that adds to your background, here's this. Or it'd be easy to post a picture or two of the beauty of Camp Nelson and then saying, here's a link that might get you something that makes it even more attractive to come out and look at. And that just builds on itself. It's a good way to do it.
Oh, that's a great idea, is kind of reaching these groups that go to these places all the time and they're looking for new stuff. If you could share it, that would be great.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doug. Okay. I was just going to add, for Camp Nelson, not only were there historians interested, but historic preservationists, just different groups that normally maybe wouldn't look at geologic ones. So there was a lot of interest just when we posted on social media. And the other thing I was going to add was Bluegrass Trust it overlapped. Remember when we were posting, it kind of overlapped with something that they were doing. So we had like a simultaneous post with that. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, feel free to share why, but we, we'll keep sharing them on Facebook, and hopefully people will see that, and we share on other things. And I think doing these, I'd like to do more of these webinars just to give maybe not dive into doing all the demo part, although that hopefully demystified it just a little bit so people feel comfortable, working with it. But I think we should get the word out as far and wide as we can, because it is the future. We have a lot of interactive maps and that sort of thing, but I think people do want to be guided, through different topics, and especially at different locations. If you can do that well, that's probably a lot more effective than just giving them here's an interactive map of the geology of Kentucky, now go explore. Some people like that, but probably most people want, a little bit of explanation on that. So that's what my hope too is. We have all this data we've shared through our website. And, I showed it very quickly how to do the faults, but all those layers that we show in the map service are open to be used in things like StoryMaps and that sort of thing. So if you can use those for at least a background map, for some context, then by all means, that's what they're there for. So there you go.
Well, if there are no more questions, go ahead.
No, I was just saying this is excellent.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Well, thanks for joining me. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. Thank you very much, Doug, for coming to give a seminar on this Monday evening. I really appreciate seeing the connections, and as Michael mentioned, sort of pulling together this military history and geology, and really the potential for pulling this together into environmental justice, and even tying it into, for example, the radon concerns in the state, as well as the Superfund sites and any number of other environmental concerns tied with vulnerable communities. So I think that there's a lot of promise here going forward. Yeah, I hope to hear more about it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have a good evening.
Thanks, Doug.
thank you.